Welcome back to another episode of The Maturity Project. I'm your host, Chad Everett Broshears, or Sir Chad Everett Broshears to some. Uh, I am talking today about really just the small things, right? Like the little things that add up to create something bigger. Just any little detailed value thing that can actually create something greater in your life. But, all habits come from something. Hell, even thoughts come from something, you know. But being more in control of opportunities and direction is such a great building opportunity for a future. So if you know that you have the ability to create the life that you want, what do you do about it, right? Like, so you could either sit and say, you know what, life happens to me. Things aren't always fair. I just can't seem to get a break. Stuff like that. That's all the symptoms of life happening to you. The major benefit is whenever you happen to life. Like when you happen to life, you're taking steps, you're doing something, you're creating it for yourself. Now, there are plenty of opportunities when it comes to creating the future for yourself. You just have to agree to navigate it in a way that gives you that opportunity. You have to want to change things. And some of us don't want to because we get a payoff for things being the way they are. Like people that constantly complain, they get the perfect advice on how to change the challenges that they're facing, and yet they don't take any action on that, or they take little to very minute values on action to just kind of feign it to make it seem like that they are they're doing something. So it's an interesting thing, really, because it's like you got the big conversations, the macro of it, where people say, hey, I made this declaration and I'm going to start living from this day forward. Well, okay, fantastic. But how do you communicate that? If you really want to make your future different, consider or pretend that you need to write out explicit direction to the future you that you're wanting to find, or that you're wanting to create. Like, just imagine that you've got to write out something to that person that describes them to themselves. So create as much detail to convince yourself that it's real. Like if you watch a movie and they tell you in the movie that somebody's just very wealthy. Okay, well, fantastic. I cannot wrap my mind around what that means if you don't give me something to realize it. Very wealthy, well, they can go, they have the power to pay people to go and persuade politicians. Okay, well, that gives me a better idea of kind of a ballpark where this person might be. They own their own island. Okay, well, that's kind of getting closer, but you could actually own an island and it have little to no value because nobody else wants to buy it. There's I live in Florida. There are actually a lot of islands in Florida. You can buy that land. Is not every piece, but there are definitely like islands you can buy, and some of them you're not going to be able to do anything with it. If anything, it's just a piece of land that boats have to navigate around because it has no value about stopping there. There's nothing to do. It's not big enough to do much. So you could buy an island for thousands of dollars. And it really doesn't mean anything. You have a piece of land that you're going to pay taxes on. You may not even be able to do anything with it. So it's pretty interesting when that kind of thing comes up. So you've got to get more details. If I'm watching a movie and they're like, oh, this guy's very wealthy, if you don't give me something else to indicate what that wealth means, it won't make sense. It's like, why did you mention it? There's no value built to it. So you create okay, well, this person has, this much money. If you say Bill Gates, well, Bill Gates is built up over decades of financial wins and business decisions that have made him a significant amount of money. And you've got an understanding about, like Microsoft. Well, you may not know exactly how much Microsoft is worth, but you're aware of Microsoft and the depth that it is inside of our entire community and society. Actually, across the planet, Microsoft has an influence. So then you got a better idea. This guy is incredibly wealthy. Now you can wrap your mind around it. You could say that they're in a happy marriage, but then, as far as the movie goes, if you're projecting this, well, what the hell does that mean? Okay, they have a happy marriage, but imagine watching the movie and they never mention his wife again. It leaves you with, why'd you tell me that? You want to be able to write out what your future would look like with such depth and detail that you can completely get the person. So you're just putting the stuff into the world so that you'll start looking at, okay, once you've got the story written out, now let's look at all of the details that really add the fullness to the story, that brings in the emotions of it, of the total of the story. How do we shift the emotional inflections enough in the character description that the actor is acting upon, that you are acting upon? Add in things like, are you confident? Do you trust people in this reality? Do you have the ability to deal with life's changing and the stress that comes with that and the challenges that come with the surprises we all face? You get a phone call and you realize no matter what you're up to at that moment in your life, you immediately put your attention on somebody because you find out there's something going to happen and they may not be with you again. Or something happened and that person's no longer here. And it completely shakes up the world. How flexible are you and how capable are you of navigating that moment because you're so in tune with yourself and you can give yourself the justification and the allowance to truly be you versus the overwhelming sensation of not knowing what's going on and being completely lost. I'm not saying that it's going to make you completely, impervious to the experience of losing somebody. I'm saying the flexibility to still function when something like that's happening. Obviously, your functional level would be shifted to something that is a higher importance than the day-to-day, but you can't completely abandon the day-to-day. That's the kind of detail you want to give your character, your future self, if you start writing the stuff out, because it'll all start making more and more sense, especially if you go back and read what you wrote a month ago or 2 months ago or 3 months ago. You just shift along the way, so you keep going back and taking into consideration who you were whenever you wrote it and what you were trying to tell yourself. Continue that process. It's pretty interesting what it will do for you. You can really start changing specific trait values and develop them into something stronger, something more akin with your goal, something that is a higher probability of supporting you in achieving your goals. We don't want to focus. It really does you little justice, and it actually, if anything, can create a lot more stress for you if you focus on being, a specific. I apologize, I lost track here. There's a young lady that didn't seem to notice me when I was trying to merge over. Anyway, so I lost track. Oh, beautiful thing, pivot. And I do feel like I was onto a nice piece there, and I'm gonna have to leave it be because it's not going to make us any different if I continue on that path, and it might be distracting. So anyway, all right. Back to the overall, write out the story that you can teach yourself who you are. Keep going back and rereading it. Look for the details, especially if it's a mystery or a conversation about, say what you want to accomplish and then get really curious about how you got there. The same as when you watch a movie and you see some climactic moment that starts the movie off and then it starts, 2 weeks before, or it starts at another timeline. And then you start learning the mystery of what got to that point. That's a different way of looking at it. Am I saying this is the best way of doing it? No, it might work incredibly well for you. That's another great thing about human beings. There's a lot of things that work for us, but each one of us have things that work for us in different ways in different times of our life. So it's pretty awesome, actually. If anything, embrace life with this curiosity that tells you that it's okay to feel a specific way, and you can be a specific person. and it's okay. And we're all different. And your goal should be to be able to extract who you are in every moment. And the more you focus on that, the more you realize you'll connect with others, because you become so intimately aware of who you are that others can see their life through what you've experienced and what you're sharing with them and what you're, overall expressing in front of them, even if it's just your actions. So it's a practice. Life is just a practice. There's no right way to live life. There's no real wrong way to do it necessarily. Society has its rules that we have to abide by, and then there's the morality values that we have. But ultimately, you can live the rest of your life and not do anything extraordinary and be completely satisfied with living a very fulfilled life, because it just lines up with the way that you be and the way that you want to experience it. We don't all want the same thing, and we don't all want to get there the same way. You talk to wealthy, or you talk to very successful people, the things that I hear them talk about that they enjoy is how they got there. Once they've accomplished something and they can talk about what they've got, as far as how they've gotten where they are, how big their companies are, what their experiences are like, what their family life is like, all that stuff. Then there's that, well, how did you do it? Where did you start? Tell me the story. That's just so that they can see the similar formula within each other, but also understand that the variables were different, yet they still had the ability to achieve that level of success. So, but if you want to be at that table with people like that, really take responsibility for where you currently are, who you currently are being, and then cultivate the person that you want the future to be into existence by creating the details, so you can look at the smaller actions necessary that build up into the bigger values that turn into, the character traits necessary to be successful, the structural values necessary to be successful. So, all right, well, that's it for now. Thank you for checking in again, and this is Chad Everett Broshears, Sir Chad Everett Broshears to some. And this is the Maturity Project, and today's episode 16, which is about the small things and how you can really change things up, and to write about things, the takeaways. Write about stuff. Write about the future you want to see. Create that into a reality. Fabricate it to be real, Say, want to be somebody what? Whatever you want to be, then create the details associated with that person. It's pretty cool. It's actually kind of fun. So, anyway, until next time, we'll talk then. Remember, we got a world that we're working on changing, but first we got to do it here first. You got to do it where you are. Until next time, guys. See ya.